Pam Bondi is President-elect Donald Trump's latest choice for Attorney General. Bondi's nomination comes after Trump's previous pick, former Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz, withdrew his name amid a sex and drug use scandal. But who is Pam Bondi, and what would be her impact on the U.S. Justice Department? Joining us now is former U.S. Attorney Paul Charlton, a partner at Denton's law firm. Good to see you again. Thanks for joining
having me, Ted.
So who is Pam Bondi?
Well, Pam Bondi is, on the one hand, a very experienced prosecutor. She was what prosecutors call a line prosecutor. She was in courtroom every day. She was working for a DA. She had a great deal of experience trying cases, standing up on her feet and making arguments. She was also a two-time Attorney General for the state of Florida. That means that she had a great deal of experience in managing other prosecutors and managing other civil lawsuits and representing the state of Florida in that regard. She was termed out, but that piece of her background is objectively good. It is the kind of thing that we would want in an Attorney General of the United States. Her critics, however, Ted, point to the fact that she is also overtly political and a supporter of former President Trump, soon to be incoming President Trump, because she has been involved in a number of, for example, election denial lawsuits. She represented the president during his first impeachment trial, and she has been a vocal supporter of his in the media. So these two aspects of her background. The first, career prosecutor, someone who is supposed to be apolitical and removed from the political process, and then someone else who is very much involved in the political process, are conflicting and existing at the same time.
And to make it clear for some folks, I imagine there are some folks who don't quite get the fact that the Attorney General is not supposed to be a loyalist, not supposed to be someone who is subservient to the president or antagonistic on purpose. I mean, you're supposed to be apolitical. This does not sound like that.
Precisely, Ted. And since Watergate, there has been a general view that the Department of Justice is supposed to be the other, as you say, something separate and apart from the President of the United States. Now, the President can dictate policy. I remember when Janet Reno was the Attorney General for former President Clinton, there was a big emphasis on environmental crimes. When Bush came into office, there were different kinds of policies which that Attorney General, he had two Attorney Generals, emphasized as well. In that sense, politics can and should have an influence in the Attorney General. But the Attorney General is not supposed to be a partisan politician. The Attorney General is not supposed to take orders from the President, for example, to pursue the President's political rivals.
I was going to ask you about this whole revenge, retribution, all these R words out there that everyone's kind of thinking, well, everyone, they're thinking this because Trump said he was going to do it once he got elected. He is elected. I mean, can he do it through her? Will she do it?
Well, Ms. Bondi has said before she was nominated for this position that the prosecutors of former President, soon to be President again, Trump, should be prosecuted themselves. The investigators were soon to become the investigated. So her words again in this political arena would seem to suggest that she is willing to consider prosecutions, perhaps even of Jack Smith, the special counsel on the prosecutions involving Trump. So we'll have to see whether or not she can separate herself from those words that were said in the political environment from her role, and it seems that she's likely to be confirmed as Attorney General of the United States.
Yeah, I think she said that Jack Smith, quote, weaponized our legal system. And Donald Trump said that for too long, this is a quote, for too long the partisan Department of Justice has been weaponized against me and other Republicans, not anymore.
Correct. And this is where far right meets far left, I think, because the left is concerned that they are going to weaponize this Department of Justice, that President Trump and any one of his attorneys general is going to pursue his political enemies. And Trump says that's exactly what happened to me. I was pursued by my political enemies. All of these prosecutions weren't just prosecutions. They were politically motivated. So whether or not this is going to follow as a tit for tat in terms of their belief that this was a political prosecution previously and should be more political prosecutions going forward, we'll just have to see.
Does the president have any kind of exclusive authority over what the Department of Justice and the Attorney General investigates?
He's not supposed to. But again, if we can go back in time to the Watergate era, President Nixon called up the Attorney General of the United States in what became known as the Saturday Night Massacre and told the then Attorney General, I want you to fire the special prosecutor who is investigating me, Richard Nixon. The Attorney General refused to do that, and it set forth a cascading events of firings and retirements and resignations until they finally found Bork, Robert Bork, who said, yes, sir, I will fire Archibald Cox, the special prosecutor. So the president has in the past made political decisions like that, hindered in a very real way his own prosecution and investigation. The concern after Watergate was we ought not to let that happen again. From now on and going forward, we ought to remove the president from political decisions such as that one.
But that is the concern. If the concern doesn't exist now like it did then, I mean, it's an open highway, isn't it?
Well, so many things have changed. So the president, Trump, has been very open about the fact that he wants to pursue his political enemies. His apologists will say that's not really what he means. He doesn't mean pursuing them by prosecution. But the Supreme Court has given a kind of avenue for him in which he might be immune from suggesting, rightly or wrongly, that a political opponent be investigated. What happens next is that the Attorney General is supposed to tell the president, I understand your desire, I understand that request, but it's not consistent with my mandate as the lead prosecutor for the nation.
Do you think she's going to do something like that?
We don't know. We'll have to see. Again, the president's defenders will say that's not really what he meant. I suspect when Ms. Bondi goes through the confirmation process, we're going to hear from her that she is loyal to the Constitution before she puts loyalty to the President of the United States. What happens afterwards and when she actually takes office, we're just going to have to see.
Real quickly, there's a $25,000 payment, I think, to Bondi's Political Action Committee. Either was it before she had to decide on Trump University, and I think it was before, and she decided on Trump University, and she decided not to pursue that case after getting that money?
She declined to pursue a prosecution or a civil investigation of Trump University, as did many other attorneys general. They agreed that they would go forward. She declined to go forward with that. The allegation is that this was a kind of payoff, the $25,000 for the decision not to go forward. Her response is, this is just politics. It's real politics. We get contributions from a PAC, and we still exercise our own independent investigation. Nothing followed from that. There was no formal declaration that that was inappropriate, but the optics of it are certainly going to be something that we will see in the course of her confirmation.
Before we let you go, I can't let you go without talking about the dismissal of the federal cases against Donald Trump. The two cases, Jack Smith basically said, I'm out of here. We can't do it. We can't prosecute a sitting president. Is Donald Trump right now, in that as a president-elect and soon-to-be president, is he above the law?
The Supreme Court has essentially said, Ted, that he is afforded protections above the law, above what it is you and I might expect. So in that very real sense, yes, he is above the law that every other citizen of this country can expect in terms of protections. Jack Smith, in his pleadings asking that these cases be dismissed, suggested that there is a possibility that the case be dismissed without prejudice, which means it could be brought again, that at the end of his term, President Trump's term, that perhaps another prosecutor could pick up the baton and go forward, but that seems like a very slim possibility as we look at this today. It is important to remember, though, Ted, there are still civil cases going forward that relate to the January 6 events. Civil litigants, including the family of a deceased police officer, are suing the president for the activities that they say wronged them and others. And so those cases are not immune. They don't protect the President of the United States. Those suits will go forward.
Real quickly, though, if, let's say, it seems rather unlikely, but 4 years from now he's not running again, or he loses, whatever the case may be, he leaves, he goes to, and all of a sudden a new special process, a new attorney general, new special process, the whole 9 yards goes through, can he just, before he leaves office, pardon himself?
Constitutional scholars are wringing their hands over that question, Ted. And there's, apart from the idea of whether or not he can pardon himself, the question about the statute of limitations. So there are significant hurdles to the real possibility of whether or not former, now soon-to-be, President Trump will ever be prosecuted for these offenses. It seems the more likely outcome is, at least in the federal arena, he will not.
Wow, such legal goings on. It's good to have you here to help explain it. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Ted.